What's up, everybody? It's your boy Ronan, back with another video. If you don't know who I am, I'm a comic artist. I have a pretty cool comic called The Heavy. You can check it out in the description below. If you like mech, not really, there's some mechs in it. Mechs, you like sci-fi stuff, you like militaristic action, some drama. You should check it out. I think you'll dig it. I will be updating it pretty soon, I promise. It's been a minute. But I'm busy making these videos for you guys, you know what I mean? So that's why I've been slow with that. So this channel is about the fan art. Today what I'm going to be doing is fan art of the Avengers. Really the Ultimate Avengers from the Ultimate line from some years back in the early 2000s. Really awesome comic. And I'll tell you about it while I'm inking it. So I don't want to hold you up any longer. Let's get to the illustration.
So like I said in the intro, today I'm going to be talking about a comic called The Ultimates. Now to tell you a little bit about the Ultimates line, it started around 2002, and the Ultimate comics were kind of like an attempt to get new readers into Marvel Comics. And the way they did this was by simplifying the comics. So the Ultimate line ran in conjunction with the normal comics. This was just a totally different line of comics. So everything was simplified. Like, you didn't have to know all the years of continuity. You didn't have to know everything that was going on. You didn't have to know that Spider-Man did this and then Spider-Man did that, but then this person died, but then you didn't have to know any of that stuff. You just had to know Spider-Man's a teenager who gets bit by a spider and gets these superpowers. The line was also really pared down. There were only a few comic books. They're like tentpole comics. There was, I think it started with Ultimate Spider-Man. Then you had Ultimate X-Men, Ultimate Fantastic Four, and then the Ultimate Avengers, which they were just called the Ultimates. And this volume of the Ultimates has a very interesting connection with the Authority, the comic I talked about a couple of videos back, and that's because it's one of the writers from one of the volumes, the writer from the volume of the Authority I talked about in my other video, but the artist from the previous volume. So to be quite honest, it kind of just feels like Authority 2.0, which is not a bad thing. So needless to say, when I say the writer from the Authority, you know already, it's a lot more violent, a lot more grounded in reality, and also with like a little bit darker tones. A lot of the characters, their flaws are amplified, and it just makes it a little bit more interesting. I guess it gives Mark Miller a little bit more to work with. It's really interesting because I was going and reading a bunch of reviews and what people said about the comic, and a couple of the reviews were talking about something that I thought, but I couldn't really articulate back in the time when it came out, was that it's a very cinematic comic. It almost feels like this was Marvel movies before they made Marvel movies. Albeit, you know, a lot darker and a little bit more grounded. I'm actually surprised by the Marvel movies, how colorful they are, how well told the stories are, and how they really stick to continuity, and how they stick to the real source material. This was if you would have read this, you would have said, oh yeah, they could make a movie from this. One of the things I think that makes the comic more grounded and feel more realistic and cinematic is that in the Ultimates universe, I don't think there was a lot of crossover at this time. So in this comic book, they didn't really acknowledge the Fantastic Four, that there were X-Men. It was almost like they were all self-contained. And so what it was kind of like is as if this was the first time superheroes even existed. So every time a superhero did superhero stuff, it was kind of like it was the first time anyone ever saw it. So it made it seem more grand. It wasn't just an everyday thing, you know. And so everything looked more grounded and realistic. Like the tech was more realistic looking. Their uniforms were more simplified and realistic looking too. Like for instance, Iron Man's Iron Man suit looks kind of like garbage. I didn't really draw his suit looking the way it really looks in the first volume. I drew him kind of as a combination of the Iron Man from volume 3 and in the original volume, because I just didn't like drawing it. In Giant Man's suit, or Ant-Man, Dr. Pym, his uniform looks really basic and simple, like almost like a prototype of a superhero costume, which he's not in this drawing. He wasn't the original drawing I did. I did a whole other drawing of this, but I did this a while ago, and I didn't really understand filming it, and the footage was just too bad, so I had to toss that. And there's a picture of it. Or like, for instance, the Hulk is his original gray color. Back in the day, the first issue of the Hulk they ever made, he was gray, but the gray ink didn't print well, so they had to change it to green. I guess you couldn't see it well at that time with their printing techniques, so they changed. That's why the Hulk is green. But in this comic, because it's 2000s, you can print gray and it looks nice on glossy paper or whatever. So the Hulk is his original gray. He's a lot more savage. I mean, like, he literally, when he goes on a rampage, he eats people and stuff like that, which I think the Hulk probably would do. And a lot of things carry over from the Ultimates line into the standard comics line, like Captain America's uniform. This was the first time I really liked his uniform. This was the first time they made him look like he's wearing an actual utilitarian uniform, as opposed to like superhero skin tight outfit that kind of doesn't make any sense. Like, superhero comics, the way their costumes work really doesn't make any sense. And this was the first time I saw a superhero wearing a uniform that looked like it made sense. It was functional. Another thing that carried over from the Ultimate Universe is that I really feel like this comic book reinvigorated Captain America's character. In the normal Marvel comics, Captain America kind of sucked to me. I never liked him. He never seemed to do anything. Whatever his abilities were, they didn't seem to stand out. This comic book made me like a Captain America fan. He's like my favorite character now, because of the comic book. He just kicks ass. Like, he has some weird innate ability to just win. So some kind of weird, they don't explain it, just he kind of wins. At one point he goes toe to toe with the Hulk for a page, which in the normal comic books, and normally Hulk can kill Captain America just by sneezing on him. But in this comic, he went toe to toe with the Hulk for like a page. I mean, the Hulk beat him up eventually, but yeah, he's just kind of awesome. He beats up Giant Man when he was at his full 60 feet tall. He's just a really cool character, and I kind of feel like that carried over into the main Marvel universe, because his popularity seemed to rise after this comic. This is also where they first came up with the concept of making Nick Fury, who's the leader of S.H.I.E.L.D., look like Samuel L. Jackson. And that's how it's funny, like, how Samuel L. Jackson got cast as Nick Fury. They were like, well, we based his look off of you anyway, his new look off of you anyway, so we might as well cast you in the films, because it's basically him. Another thing about the comic book that I really feel like influenced the films actually is the idea that of the Avengers having to figure out a way to get along. Like in the first Avengers film, they didn't like each other very much, and in the comics it's kind of that way too. I mean, they seem to fight each other in this comic anyway. They seem to fight each other more than the bad guys, and them figuring out a way to get along is like, part of them meshing as a team. And I think it was pretty interesting though, and I think it was a really a good way to take it, because they were more interested in any of the bad guys, to be quite honest. I can't even remember who they were fighting. They were either fighting the Skrull or some weird Skrull analog called the Chitauri or some stupid stuff like that. Yeah, so they're a lot more interesting than anything. I mean, like, You know, when Hulk goes crazy, he's eating people. At one point, he's stealing the pants. He tries to steal the pants from some obese man, which I've always wondered why the Hulk's pants don't rip off when he turns into the Hulk. It doesn't make any sense. So he would need some really big pants to put on. Like Dr. Pym and Wasp, they're having marital issues. There's spousal abuse in there. Thor's done really well. He's kind of like it's like, is he really it comes at one point it comes down to, is he really a god of thunder, or is he just a crazy dude who stole this secret government weapon, the hammer? So it's the actual Avengers themselves are the most interesting part of this comic book, or rather I should say the Ultimates. I keep calling them the Avengers because that's what they are, but they're called the Ultimates here. And I would be remiss if I didn't talk about Brian Hitch's work. Brian Hitch is not really one of my favorite artists. That's not a knock on him. I mean, he's obviously a really great artist. Just I'm not necessarily into the photorealistic style. But I think it really works well with this comic, the way he does it. The art is just gorgeous. And he, man, I mean, it must have been a Herculean task to get it done. But I love the realism works for this. I like the realistic proportions of the characters. No one's like super over the top, kind of like in most comic books. And a lot of the angles that he takes are really epic. Like a lot of times he'll shoot the way he'll angle Giant Man, it's always from the standpoint of a civilian, someone seeing him, as opposed to him being shot at eye level or whatever, or from his point of view. It's really well done, and it makes him seem more epic. And just all the characters are really done in a very epic style. Almost like I said, from the point of view of a civilian seeing them in action. So that was the Ultimates. Really cool comic from the early 2000s. For my illustration, I threw Black Panther in there just because I wanted to. He wasn't in the first volume, so he was kind of in like, I think the third volume, drawn by Joe Mad. But I just kind of want to throw him in there, man. So I put him on there. And also I went with the classic green Incredible Hulk, just because that's the one we're used to. And I'll be posting this on my Instagram. So why don't you go over there and give me a follow, link in the description. Thanks.
So that was the video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I enjoyed making it as usual. Like I said, the Ultimates was a super dope comic book. I really loved it. And I'd like to see them do something like that again in the future, but who knows. But anyways, if you did enjoy it, like, subscribe, comment. I appreciate it. It really helps me out a lot. And I don't want to keep you guys any longer than I need to. I think I'll be taking a week off, but I'll be back the week after that. So look forward to seeing you guys then, and I'll catch you next time. Peace.